Good day, brothers and sisters. This is your brother Rams here, and as always, it's a pleasure to be back on the airwaves. And I just want to say again, first and foremost, I thank Almighty God for giving me this opportunity to come before you and speak and drop this knowledge on you to make you aware of what's going on. And as I said, the purpose of my podcast is to uh, show my brothers and sisters all around America and the world that everything must change and time moves forward. So first and foremost, I give thanks to God. I give thanks to all those people who support me and picking up on their subscriptions. I thank you so very much, and I am deeply, deeply humbled. And again, as I always say near the end, may God bless you for your help and your support. But I'm gonna start right off and get into some of the topics I'm going to get into. But first and foremost, before I start, as I've said a number of times, I'm going to say this and I'll say it every single podcast. And the podcast I'm starting with is this: why, when we talk about immigration, we do not bring no Native American activists to the table? For some strange reason, they continue to keep my red brother out of the discussion about immigration. And when I go online and look at their discussion, they got a lot to say, man. They got a lot to say, and I think they should be heard so every American can hear them. But they silence them like they did when they came here. We must never, ever forget this is a nation of immigrants that invaded our brother and sister here in North America. They are the original people of this land. They are the original people of this land. Every Caucasian here in America is a descendant of an immigrant. Now, you can take that or let it alone. I say it and I'll say it again and again and again because it's the truth. This was Native American land. And oh, by the way, I want to say something else. See, when people talk about Mexicans and get the Mexicans out, oh, get them out. You got to understand, the Mexicans ain't the Mexicans. They're really the Native Americans. They're related to the Native Americans, baby. And especially you and people in Texas, you ain't got a damn thing to say because Texas was really Mexico. You go back and look at it in history. Texas was really Mexico, part of Mexico. So you can take it or let it alone, but I'm telling you the truth, brothers and sisters. You can't have a discussion about immigration and for some strange reason you don't want to include the Native American because you don't want to. Why you don't want to include them? Because they'll tell the real story. They'll tell the real story, and that's what we must all understand. So again, people of color, do not get into any kind of immigration discussion with our Caucasian brothers and sisters because they're not going to give you the true picture. They're going to give you a warped, twisted picture from a white nationalist point of view that they're supposed to come take this land. You ever heard of this thing called manifest destiny? Manifest destiny basically says it's the destination of the Caucasian people to have a place of their own. Sound familiar? Huh. It's destined for them to have a place. Yeah, your place was in the caves and hillsides of Northern Europe. That's where you got driven into, and all through Europe. That's a historical fact. Again, you can take it or let it alone, but history bears me witness. So if you're going to have a discussion, let's include my red brother with it so we can get a true picture, so we can do what? So we can grow and move on. Because what did Jesus say? Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Set you free from what, Brother Rams? From the darkness of ignorance. From the darkness of ignorance. That's what the Master was talking about. It will set you free once you know the truth. What's the truth? God. Truth is God, and God is the truth. I say it over and over again, and I'm going to continue to say it. So again, you cannot have a discussion about immigration without talking to my Native American brothers, and have the nerve to go after my Mexican brothers like he's some foreigner. when he walked this land long before any Caucasian did. So that's history for you, my Caucasian brothers, because you lack knowledge. So your brother Rams here to give you that knowledge. And I want to continue by saying that I want to continue by letting you know that the Epstein victims, the Epstein survivors, I'm again say to you, you young women, you all stick together, keep fighting. These people don't want you to hear nothing. This old crazy president started a war just to distract from it. But it's funny. He tried to silence the uproar of the Epstein files. Guess who gets on TV? His wife gets on TV and talk about, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I don't know nothing. She telling a daggone lie. She know about more than what she know. That's why I would want her to be subpoenaed like Hillary Clinton, former the former president's wife, just because he was up there in the pool or whatever with some young lady. They call it guilt by association. Well, damn it, you got more than guilt by association with her. You seen files upon files of her with them. She should be brought before Congress. See, she tried to get ahead of the argument by saying, if I get out there first and say something, maybe they won't subpoena me. They should. They automatically should. Bring her in there because she know more than what she knows. Guaranteed. You see all the photos with her. Did you see a lot of photos of Hillary Clinton? No, you didn't. You didn't. That's why she was angry, sitting up there 6-7 hours, them asking her stupid questions. When the one they need to interview is Melania. And again, she tried to do her own thing and get out in front of it. But now she's stirred up more controversy than she tried to prevent. So again, my brothers and sisters, you survivors of the Epstein, keep holding on, keep your faith, stick together. God is with you. You just got to believe in him. He's here. I'm going to show you out that God is here already. He's here to defeat these demons. Because you and I don't have enough power to defeat these demons. There's only one that can defeat these demons. They got infinite more power than them. So you keep praying to God. You stick together. You keep demanding that your story be told and that the proper people be brought to justice so you can have justice to rest your soul. So again, survivors of the Epstein sexual assault, I take my hat and tip my hat to you because all I just want you to do is keep fighting. You hear me? My daddy used to tell me this thing. He used to say, always remember, persistence wears down resistance. You got to be persistent if you want your rights, because you're going against some very, very powerful white men. But the only way you can beat them is with God and persistence. So again, sisters, keep doing your thing. May God be with you. And like I said, I am praying for you, and I hope you receive the justice that you deserve. But right now, we're going to get into the political situation. But first and foremost, I want to start off by talking about the very, very successful Artemis 2 trip that went around the moon and traveled the longest distance. Historic flight, too, historic. And I'm going to get into that. It's a historic flight because it went the farthest that any astronauts have ever traveled. Have gone the farthest than any astronauts who've traveled into space. Historic because of the number of miles that they traveled. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I'm going to add a little black history to it. I got to add the black history, brothers and sisters, because that's important. All right? And you know a key piece to this whole thing, this Artemis trip? Black women, here we go. Remember the 3 brilliant sisters from Hidden Figures? Remember them? They were the ones who now their work has inspired and translated into this very historic and successful trip to a trip around the moon, the dark side of the moon, people never seen before in their life. Historic, man. These three sisters, I'm going to name them out. This is Black History because, Black History goes all year with me. The first one I want to talk about is our sister, Katherine Johnson. They're all our sisters, but I'm talking about the first one, Katherine Johnson. She's a brilliant mathematician. Oh, shoot, mathematician. Who calculated the trajectories for the space task group. She calculated the trajectories. Now, I'm going to get you to refresh your memory a little bit. If you watch the return of the ship coming to Earth, getting into the Earth's atmosphere, there was a word they kept using. If you were paying attention, they kept saying the ship got to hit the atmosphere, hit the Earth's gravity at the right angle. At the right angle, it's got to hit. If it don't, all of them could get killed. All of them could be killed, man. It has to be precise, damn it. But our sister, you know what she did? She calculated that trajectory. She calculated that angle that the spaceship had to hit the Earth's atmosphere at. The precise. Black woman. Mathematician. Katherine Johnson. Don't you forget it, because you just saw some of her work just now. That's one of them. Katherine Johnson. Brilliant sister. Brilliant. Second one, Dorothy Vaughan. Brother Ram, who's Dorothy Vaughan? She was part of it too. Again, she was a mathematician and supervisor. Uh-oh, black woman supervisor? And guess what she was? She mastered Fortran. What's Fortran? It's special programming that NASA had just developed. She had mastered it. A mathematician. Dorothy Vaughan. So when you see that spaceship go up there and come on down or whatever, it's through the work and diligence of these three main black women. The third one, Mary Jackson. Who was she, Brother Ram? Mary Jackson was a mathematician who became NASA's first female African American engineer. Good Lord. First African American engineer that worked for NASA, female. And guess what? She's a mathematician. I love it, man. It just sends goosebumps through me, man. It sends goosebumps through me. But you know what? Know what it makes me say then? I get upset when I hear these. And I used to be a school teacher. I taught math and science for 32 years. I know a little bit about the subjects. But what used to get me was when I see these young black girls, I can't do math. It's too hard for me. Shut up, damn it, and study your book. Shut up and study. You're too busy complaining. You're too busy shaking and gyrating, damn it. Study your books. You're brilliant. You just ain't no damn plaything. You're the mother of the planet. You're the author of mathematics. Brother, you seem fired up because I get sick of hearing it from these young black women. I can't do math and think it's funny. It ain't funny. But somewhat for their defense, I have to say this. A lot of our brothers and sisters are taught mathematics by Caucasians. This is a objective fact. Many of our children are taught by Caucasian people. So what are you saying, Brother Rams? I'm saying that, like I always said, that we do better teaching our own. Math isn't hard, but I've been looking at some of the ways some of these teachers are teaching math, and I said, no wonder the kids are confused. I've taught math. And even though it may seem hard, it's very, very simple to teach if you remain simple. It's a theory in coaching as well. But in math and science, it's always the same as well. It's called the KISS theory. What does KISS stand for? It's an acronym for keep it simple, stupid. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And if you keep it simple, they'll understand it. Along with this other key piece, it's called practice and repetition. Let me give you an example of how I used to teach math. Because I taught math to the kid that the school system has said they're unteachable. They can't be taught. And I looked at them. I said, these are my young brothers and sisters. That's by damn. I know I can teach them. And I used my method. And I'll give you a quick little overview of my method, which is, again, is based on practice and repetition and meeting a student where they're at. Now, I had ninth graders come to high school and didn't know a damn thing about a fraction. Could barely add in some cases. Definitely couldn't do 2 by 3 multiplication. Couldn't do division. And talking about fractions, decimals, and percent, you might as well have been talking Chinese. So what did you do, Brother Rams? I met them where they were at. So in their first year, their freshman year, I had to play catch up with them. I met them where they were at, and usually it started with fractions. Now you say fractions, baby, that's like 5th, 6th grade. I said, yeah. But I learned all the operations with the fractions, how to add them, subtract them, multiply them, and divide them. Using fractions, mixed numbers, whole numbers. That's what I did. And I taught them that. And again, through practice and repetition. Practice and repetition. Then when I finally got out of that, then we started the first phases of algebra in the algebra book. You go to your algebra book, they're going to let you know in each chapter, they're going to give you several examples of the type of problems that you're going to face in this chapter. So what do you do, Brother Rams? What I do is, the first thing is, you must learn to recognize what problem it is. Recognize the steps. So if they give, say, 3 examples that you're going to face in this chapter. So what do? We start with the first one. We go over all the steps of going over the first one. So you kind of identify all of the steps needed to do this example 1. Not just the mathematics, but also turn it into language. What do certain words mean translated into mathematical? For example, more, less. Those are add and subtract. Is means equal. See? You got to turn the language. So in each example, like now example 2. So I give them the steps to do example 2, example 3. And in each step, each one, I'll combine them. I'll do 1 with 2. Then once they master 2, they got to master. To master, they got to get at least 75%. So if I gave them 4 problems, they got to get 3. Let me know that they got an idea. Then we move on to example 3. Then you go to example 3, and then what do? You do the same thing. But now when you do the problems, you mix all three of them together. And the first thing you say to them is, you must recognize which example is it. Is it example 1? Is it example 2? And example 3? Once you've identified and recognized which one it is, you then apply the steps that are necessary to do the answer. Keep it very simple. But that's how I used to teach. So you can teach. So I don't want to hear about you black women and some of you black boys telling you can't do math, and your history tells you you can do math. So don't you ever say you can't do math. All right? So like I said, Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson. Okay? But this was a historic voyage, which was marked by the fact that no other human has traveled that far in space. No other human has traveled that far in space. And let's take a look at the Artemis 2 crew. Let's just take a little look, and then there's some stuff I want to say about it. Reed Weissman, he's the commander, led the first crewed flight of the Space Launch System, SLS, Space Launch System. It's a whole different system now. He's the first rocket and Orion spacecraft. Okay? He used the Space Launch System rocket. Space on, that's that big old rocket you saw them sitting up on. And then the place where they were all inside was the Orion spacecraft. Reed Weissman. Reed Weissman. He was the commander. Hell of a dude, man. Came the first. The second, this is my man here. The second is Victor Glover Jr. Victor Glover Jr. He was the pilot of the thing. Now, Weissman, he commanded the whole operation, but who actually did the driving was the brother, Victor Glover Jr., pilot. He became the first black, his black history again. Yeah, I'm telling you. He's the first black astronaut to orbit the moon. Remember that on Black History. Remember him. Victor Glover. Black man up in space. Historic. Okay? There's another one. Her name was Christina Koch. She was a mission specialist. She was a veteran astronaut who helped complete record-setting flyby. So they flew by the moon. And of course, the trajectories and all of that, that's my sister, Katherine Johnson. She had all that figured out. And oh, by the way, with Katherine Johnson, remember John Glenn? American hero. Was in the military. Something that our president and his family seemed to avoid. John Glenn, American hero. When he went up in space. When they was handing him the figures and whatnot. Know what he said? He said, I ain't doing nothing unless Katherine Johnson go through this and check it over. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not getting in nothing. If she say it's okay, I'll get in there. And that sister, that mathematical genius, she figured out the trajectory to the down to the nth degree. Black woman, standing up strong. Oh, I love it. But again, Victor Glover Jr. was the pilot and the first black astronaut to orbit the moon. Then, like I said, there's Christina Koch, and she was a mission specialist. Okay? And she helped them do the work there on that historic lunar flyby. You know, that lunar flyby. It was key point. She was a woman. I'm going to come to that in a minute. Next one was Jeremy Hansen. He was also a mission specialist. Guess where he was from? He was from Canada, the Canadian Space Agency. He became the first Canadian to fly around the moon. Good Lord, good Lord. Look at that. Now I'm going to break something down for you, brothers and sisters. Let's take a look at the crew. Has a black pilot, has a woman mission specialist, and a Canadian as one of the astronauts. And remember, Canada, which used to be our closest ally until our President Trump started denigrating them, insulting them, and placing these crazy tariffs, foolish tariffs, on them, thus sparking an unnecessary trade war with our most loyal ally, Canada. Left them stunned, but Canada said, "Okay, you want to do that to us? We'll do it right back to you." But who goes start in trouble with their friends? Meant something's mentally wrong. Something's mentally wrong. Who starts trouble with their friends? Okay? But I want to recall an incident that I'm sure the whole world saw. Okay? What you saw on TV, remember with the 4 astronauts in a group up on the stage and they all came together for a group hug? Remember that? Look for it when you see it. Know what that was? That's the real America. That's the real America, brothers and sisters. That's the America we know. All right? The real America embraces everybody. Whether you're black, female, from another country, the real America embraces. And you know what that's called? I'm going to give you one of the key words. It's called diversity. See, you've been now told, see, Trump has turned America into a hateful, divisive, white nationalist country. That's what he's turned it into, a white nationalist country. He's trying to turn America into that. But trust me, my brothers and sisters, God is not going to let it happen. And that's why you saw that. See, you saw God. That's why I'm bringing this up right now. You saw God right there. You saw him. God was right there. So that's important to understand, brothers and sisters. You saw the true and living God shine through. And that's what I want you to understand. You know, that's what I want you to stand. You saw the true and living God shining through. And then, though, in all of this mischief making and bloodshedding, guess what you saw? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know why? It's the right thing because God created that. He created diversity, He created equity, and He created inclusion. So DEI is not a bad thing. It's a good thing and should be upheld instead of being turned into a word of hate. They even now suing. I just heard the Justice Department is suing some for some millions of dollars of college because they hired some. They did some DEI hiring. So what? So what? They have the right to hire who they want. Okay, because they now try to make DEI seem like it's if you're DEI you're incompetent. But let's look at the Trump incompetency. Let's start off with his War Department, Secretary of War, self-proclaimed, Pete Hegseth. Pete, do you understand that The highest rank Pete ever achieved was as a major. That's his highest rank. And I'm not disparaging that because all soldiers, I love them. But Pete, you have no experience dealing with, first of all, a budget that size and a military that size, commanding that many troops. America has about 1.3 million active troops. He's never dealt with nothing like that as a major. So he's unqualified. But we're going to talk about his being unqualified. So I'm getting ready to pivot into the political sauce here. And going to look at the topic in which I'm doing this podcast. And the title of this topic is going to be, right now, I'll tweak it a little bit. It's called the 25th Amendment. It's called the 25th Amendment. Hold on. It's called the 25th Amendment. Should it be invoked on President Trump? The 25th Amendment, should it be invoked on President Trump? Let's talk about it. Let's take a look at it. What is the 25th Amendment? Let's look at some key factors and see if our president, quote, qualifies. And then I'll tell you the apparatus that would get him out of there. Okay? First of all, one of the first reasons that the 25th Amendment, that means that calls for the removal of the president. There's certain circumstances that allow for the removal of the president. That's what the 25th Amendment is about, brothers and sisters. If you hear him talking about it, it calling for the removal of the president. What are the circumstances that are necessary that would allow the removal of the president? So the question again, the 25th Amendment, should it be invoked on President Trump? Let's take a look. The first situation where a president can be removed is a scheduled medical procedure. That's Section 3. That's Section 3. A scheduled medical procedure. It voluntarily transfers power before surgery or medical treatment. Okay? And that's a surgery that requires anesthesia. Okay? That requires anesthesia. So you have to transfer that power. It's done voluntarily because you're getting ready to go under. Say, for example, even if you were to have your appendix taken out, you have to transfer the power through the 25th Amendment. And you voluntarily do it. That's the first reason. Okay? And I'll give you an example of it. Reagan did it in 1985, and George W. Bush, he did it in 2002 and in 2007. He was scheduled for surgery, so he had to transfer the power to the vice president. So that's one. Number two, sudden illness or emergency. This is Section 4. So it's immediate and it's involuntary transfer powers to the vice president for something like I said. It's a sudden illness, heart attack, stroke, or severe injury rendering him unconscious or unresponsive. So if all of a sudden he got into an accident, became paralyzed, and he totally incapacitated, then the 25th Amendment can be invoked. And that's a key factor. Number 3, here's the one everyone's screaming about. Severe cognitive decline. This is Section 4. A president is deemed incapable. He's incapable mentally of making rational decisions. Oh, gosh, we got a whole playbook here with that. With the world's, he's not able to make rational decisions. So you be the judge right now. Is President Trump making rational decisions? Let's take a quick peep. Now think about it. With the world's strongest economy, Trump imposes sweeping tariffs on our allies as well as our adversaries. We had the strongest economy in the world. Why would you now start trouble by imposing tariffs? Does that seem like mental stability to you? You ever heard the expression, leave well enough alone? And that's what they've done. Mental stability. He cut health care for millions of Americans, including voters in states, get this, including voters in states that voted for him. So in Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, all them places, they got their health care cut. And know what he said, quote? He said, right now, Americans, their worry shouldn't be about no health care, none of that. We got a war to pay for. Are you kidding me? War over people's health? Something's not right upstairs, brothers and sisters. It's very, very, very disturbing. Okay? Think about it. He had people that were voting for him, and he cut off their health care. He didn't give a damn. Mental instability to me. And then this is another one, mental instability. Tariffs, cutting off Medicare, medical, health care services for millions. That's stable to you? Is that stable to you? Crazy. And then, instead, he allowed a prime minister of another country, you know what country I'm talking about, to convince him to go to war with Iran. He allowed another prime minister of another country to convince him to go to war with Iran. No other U.S. president, Republican or Democrat, allowed the United States to be dragged into a war with Iran by this prime minister. They said, no, we ain't going to war because it's a quagmire. We're not going into war with Iran. But you know why they also said it? Because these presidents took the advice of their military leaders and refused to join up with this other country's prime minister. Said, no, we ain't joining up with him. He been wanting to destroy these people for 40 years. The repercussions will be too dire. My military general said, no, we ain't doing that. The war was not well thought out. They don't even have an exit strategy. They don't even have an exit strategy, brothers and sisters. They don't. They didn't even have an exit strategy. Another mental deficiency. He refused to follow the proper protocol by not coming before Congress to explain reasons for going to war on Iran. That's the biggest one. He made this decision basically unilaterally. He told a couple of Republicans, but that's not the whole. They didn't debate nothing. They didn't debate why. He was told he was told by this prime minister of this other country that Iran was an immediate threat. They're about as immediate threat as the country of Belize. But again, I saw, but we don't mess with nobody who has them. You ever heard of this place called North Korea? Their leaders, they got ballistic missiles by the bunch. And some of them are capable of reaching the U.S. Hey, he ain't talking about deposing their leader. Kim Jong-un, they ain't talking about that. They got nuclear weapons. They are definitely a threat. Didn't say nothing to them. This other country that we talked about, the prime minister, their country has nuclear weapons. But they don't want no one else to have nuclear weapons. See, that's a big, big deal. That's a very big deal. And so this is what we must understand. This is what we must understand. But again, we're talking about Section 4 in the 25th Amendment. We're talking about the mental instability of Donald Trump. And I'm going to now tell you some professionals that have spoken about Donald Trump and his mental health disorders. That's a nice way of saying it. There's a gentleman named Dr. John Gartner. Dr. John Gartner, a leading figure who has warned about Trump's mental disorders for decades. I'll say his name again. Dr. John Gartner, a leading figure on Trump's mental instability. Been looking at it for decades, not just a few years. And he defined his behavior as a perfect storm for malignant narcissism. Oh, shoot. Malignant narcissism, what's that, Brother Ram? I'm going to tell you what malignant narcissism is about. But again, this is Dr. John Gartner. He went to Johns Hopkins Medical School. Malignant narcissism is a combination of narcissism, antisocial personality disorder. Narcissism and antisocial personality disorder. You call it psychopathy. Psychopathy. That's the fancy word for having antisocial personality disorder. He suffers from paranoia. Oh, yeah. Don't trust nobody around him. And sadism. He threatened to destroy and obliterate a country with 93 million people. He threatened them to kill them all. Mental stability? Unheard of from a U.S. president. He said a country which he's going to obliterate them and send them back to the Stone Ages. U.S. president talking like that? Send them back where they belong. Lord have mercy. See, his declining mental capacity shows that he did not realize that he committed a war crime. When he said all that, he was committing a war crime just by the threat, not by doing it. Doing it obviously is a crime. By threatening another country to blow them, kill everybody there. That's a war crime. Just threatening them makes it that. And over 200, listen to this, over 200 mental health professionals have signed a letter Get this. They have signed a letter, brothers and sisters. They have signed a letter publicly stating, they have signed a letter, they've signed letters or made publicly stated that Donald Trump's exhibit, what's that word? Malignant narcissism. Over 200 health professionals have labeled him that because they understand the definition of malignant narcissism. Over 200 have signed that, brothers and sisters. And that's important to understand. The fourth one is the inability to communicate orders. That's Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. It's a situation where a president cannot communicate with the cabinet or military leadership, creating a security crisis. Now think about this. They fired Kristi Noem, secretary, these are cabinet members, secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Got rid of her. She was unqualified. They got rid of Pam Bondi, unqualified. Now remember, Donald Trump talks about DEI. They're not qualified. Do you know most of his staff, most of his cabinets are not qualified? Robert Kennedy, he's qualified. Pete Hegseth, qualified. Only was a major, one is only as high as a major. Never dealt with no major budgets. Don't know military strategy at all, because those decisions were made over his head. They were made by generals. They weren't made by the major. They were carried out by the major. Pam Bondi, stumbling and bumbling. Well, I got the Epstein files. Remember she said this in February? I got the Epstein files right here. They're right here on my desk. Telling a damn lie. Unqualified. But what makes them all qualified, Brother Rams? Because they're willing to kiss Donald Trump's derriere, his gluteus maximus. That's their qualification. Let alone if they can do the job. They can't. Most of them can't. That's why they never speak. Oh, and by the way, if you notice one thing about his cabinet members and him, the press constantly catches this. They say one thing, he say another. He say one thing, they say another. Is that proper communication? Look at that. Look at that. Trump and his Homeland Security, under the leadership of Kristi Noem, sent like a little Nazi over there to Minneapolis. He dressed even like in a Nazi suit. 2 Americans were killed up there, brothers and sisters. The backlash was incredible. So I just want to say that to you. He talked about DEI. And I told you, DEI is a good thing. It's a good thing. Fired 2 cabinet members, like I said, Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi. But DEI is a good thing. Don't you ever think it's not. Because it was created by God. God created diversity. Yes, he does. Oh, how you know that, Brother Ram? All you got to do is open your eyes. Do you see how many different type of trees there are? Do you see how many different types of clouds? Do you see how many different types of flowers? Even among ants, there are different types of ants. Diversity. Equity. God created every human equally. He created them all equally. In other words, they have the same physical traits. They have a head, arm, kidney, liver. But there are some racial differences in physical. But those are slight. He didn't give everyone, but the majority of his people, because if you produce billions and billions of people, there's some people who physically may not be the same as others. That's a fact. But the good side is they get a chance. They get a chance to now be worked with by people who do have everything. And that's the beauty, being able to help all people. So this is the 25th Amendment. You've seen Donald Trump's mental incapability to run the country. He doesn't he doesn't communicate with his cabinet members. And the fifth reason is when the president is forced to step down. And you saw that in the case of Richard Nixon. He was forced to resign or go to jail. So he resigned. And of course, Gerald Ford, his vice president, then took over. And then in the end, he pardoned him. That's the fifth way that the 25th Amendment works. So that's what I want you all to understand, brothers and sisters. So the 25th Amendment, should it be invoked on Donald Trump? There's a woman, a representative, her name is Melanie Stansbury. She's a Democrat, Republican. She's leading a charge in the House looking at what? The 25th Amendment on Donald Trump. Because sometimes, if what I tell to some of my brothers and sisters, if he's not an example of the 25th Amendment, then you show me what would constitute someone who's eligible for the 25th Amendment. What would their behavior have to look like in order to have the 25th Amendment invoked on them? Again, now I'll tell you the means by which you can get for president. There's two basic ways. First of all, the cabinet would have to step up and say, no, we're not doing this no more. Time to remove him. Well, what's the likelihood of that when they're all puppets and parrots and flunkies? So what's the likelihood of that? We all know. That's what the political pundits say. They said, well, Brother Rams, they're so scared to death of Donald Trump. He done bullied them into the corner. I said, yeah, but God has another way. He has two other ways. You got to take back the House and the Senate. You take over the House and the Senate, now you can remove Donald Trump. And that, he's even said it. He said if they win, he has an idea they're going to win the House. But the main one is he don't want them to win the Senate. That's the big one for him. Because, see, a lot of our brothers and sisters don't understand how this thing works, this impeachment. They say, he was impeached twice, and he's still in office. I said, because you don't understand the process. You get impeached in the House, but then you get convicted in the Senate. You got to have both in order to get them out. You just can't have one. And that's what happened with his two impeachments. As soon as he went to the Senate, Mitch McConnell and them, they protected him. Even after the January 6th foolishness, they protected him. And what did he do to old stone-faced Mitch? He threw him away like an old pair of shoes. And rightfully so, because Mitch was so full of cucker, allowing him to put 3 Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court. No good. It destroyed our country. And again, like I said, with term limits, the Supreme Court would only be there till you're 65 or 30 years, whichever comes first. You automatically have to retire. And then so there'll be more openings on the Supreme Court, and it's done by an alternate system. A Republican, then a Democrat, then a Republican, then a Democrat, so forth and so on. So no one president can stack the deck with partisan Supreme Court judges. And the third way that we can stop them is through the courts. There's still some guardrails up, like the judge who ruled that you got to stop tearing down the White House. You got to stop doing it. You weren't authorized to do that. You can make renovations, new drapes, new paint. You can do that. But tearing down the building, that requires something else. But see, that was symbolic to Donald Trump, to tear it down. because that's his thing. He's here to destroy America. I've said it over and over again. And if you notice, he's destroying America. One of the things that he uses was the mistrust. He created a bunch of mistrust in our government and our systems. You didn't have mistrust like that till Donald came. You didn't have this type of mistrust under the Bushes. You didn't. So again, brothers and sisters, I'm laying this out there. 25th Amendment, should it be invoked on Donald Trump? You look at the evidence and examine it. So again, I thank you, brothers and sisters, for all your support. May God bless you. Keep you safe. And I'll see you again. Again, God bless you. Keep safe. And amen.